Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host. And I'd like to ask you, how are you being nowadays? What does that mean to you? How are you being? Not how you're doing or how you're thinking or how you're feeling, although feeling is a part of being. We're going to get into that. And to help us be better is a wonderful guest for the show who's been on Energy Stew a number of times before. She's a very close old friend, and she has these Saturday morning meditation and group discussions, and also group discussion on Thursday mornings, and so we get into these subject matters in her group discussions. So I thought it would be good to do a show about it. So so Lisa Denton, welcome to Energy Stew, and I'd like to ask you, how are you being?
Thank you so much, Peter. It's always a delight to be here and spend time with you. I'm working on being more and doing, well, not less, but doing differently. So I think it's such an important topic for us to discuss today, because it's moving us into a new way of being. How do we navigate in this more coherent, harmonious environment? As we, there are many different words we can say of different, group consciousness. How do we, what are the tools? And beingness is actually the key. So I'm looking forward to getting into this with you.
But didn't we already be? Or are we going to be more?
Yeah, we need, well, so this is one of the biggest, for me, aha moments or big light bulbs that went off, is that we are in a great time of release. We are releasing a lot of our old identities. As has been said, we're moving from Homo sapiens into Homo luminescent beings. This is the old Mayan and Aztec at the end of the Homo sapiens. So, but in doing so, we're dropping off many, many things. And one of them are our attachments to our identities. And much of our identities have to do with what we've done, what we haven't done, what we've become, what we've accomplished, perhaps what is most relevant or important in your family, your environment, your community, your religion, all of your family lineage. All of those things are what we've adopted as parts of our identity, but they're really not us. They are stories and aspects of us that we have claimed as us. And so we are, one of the things we talked about on last Saturday, Peter, was that idea of we know we've gone very far into the distorted masculine energies these thousands of years past. And that brought us very much strongly into our mental bodies. And in doing so, it also attached our mental bodies to what we were doing, what we were, whether it was a degree, success, whether you were funny, all different kinds of criteria that we all sort of carried with us as part of our identities and part of our successes and our judgments of self and others. And those are, that as more of the divine feminine energy comes down on the planet now, completing a greater balance of divine feminine and divine masculine, that mental body is slowly eroding, and those pieces of identity, like scaffolding on a building, are starting to fall away. And to navigate more in this group consciousness period of being, it is, can you feel what it feels like to just be you, present in your body more and more and more, and going deeper into that space, which is where we will begin to connect to not just the entanglement and the intelligence of the human life stream, Mother Earth consciousness, the galactic information, but into our own personal frequency, our own truer identity as a fluid expression, a fluid experience, I will say. So we're moving from doing into feeling.
Right, and as I like to say, into being. But
Yeah.
how a being is like a oneness that
Yes.
has no expression, has no feeling,
Mhm.
because once you have feeling, there's a duality to that.
Yes. Thank you for correcting me. Actually, I misspoke. It is doing into being. We are in the art of becoming right now.
Right.
In terms of beingness, because that's where we have had more, many of us have had more and more hits of, oh, I'm thinking of so and so, and then the phone calls, and oh my gosh, of course it's you. I was just thinking about you. But those are, our body will tell us. I know you and I have done a lot of testing, whether it's finger testing or pendulum testing, different kinds of, our body actually knows answers to things. And we pick, so the more we are the more we are feeling us, and we are intricately connected to Mother Earth. We don't see ourselves like that because we're not an oak tree where we have big roots into the ground. So we don't see ourselves as intricately and innately connected to Mother Earth, biology, and consciousness, but we are.
Yeah, we have the connections, and we are not our bodies. And so when we use muscle testing, for instance, and we say, oh, look how smart my body is, it's giving me answers. And we can use any muscle in the body to give us answers. It's not the muscles that are smart, it's not our bodies, it's that our bodies are connected to a greater consciousness.
Right. So that is how we are moving from the idea of being you into the experience of being you. And then we pick up that in that entanglement theory, or the unity consciousness, and I know Nassim Haramein is about to release a paper that will blow the world's socks off about that, and about this entanglement unity consciousness, but which is amazing. But then how it's moving away from the idea of you and more into the experience of you, because that's where all the information comes from.
But I think the idea of you, of us, of self, is a mindset based on experience of separation.
Yes.
And what we're looking at is that we're going to learn we're not so separate. And we, because you hear about it all the time, that we're connected everywhere and everything's connected, and you go, well, I don't know, I'm just sitting here by myself. Well, we don't realize that myself is bigger than I know. And so we have no idea this entanglement in universal order, that we're integrated completely in, and even our minds are in that. We don't know that because our egos wouldn't allow it. And and for our own survival as humans in this plane, we do have to have a mental quickness, spontaneous mental um, reaction in case a bus is about to hit us or something like that. But that's also feeling. It's not as mental as we think it is, as the feeling communicates to our mind. And maybe it's the larger story of the universal connection speaking to us in every fraction of a second that we can be ready for.
Right. So we are a highly refined, the most intelligent biospiritual apparatus there is the human body, in alignment, in the flow of the intelligence of nature and the earth. But what's interesting is what they say in quantum physics is that's the feed forward system of the entanglement of all. So you're right, it's not an intellectual knowing now. It's a much deeper kind of knowing and trusting that feed forward system. So your sense of safety and protection, it comes from a deeper and deeper place, that whatever that you can be more and more present with whatever life presents you with, and stay present and stay in your center.
But it is a learning curve of that survival mechanism in us, of our egos that want to protect us, that want to limit us to its control.
Right. And that is, I believe it was Eckhart Tolle who said, surrender is not giving up. It is about releasing into the flow, the natural flow of what Mark Newkirk would call the light field, or the flow of life force energy, the flow of the intelligence of nature, the flow of Mother Earth consciousness. And so it is a not resistance, because that's what we've been, hasn't worked too well. But historically, in our trying to control our external world, it's putting the cart before the horse. And because whatever you see in front of you on this material plane is actually a result. Consciousness precedes manifestation. And so this, what we see in front of us, is a result. It's the result of what's already happened. And so now it is a whole learning curve. It's a massive learning curve for us, is to navigate from this place of not controlling the outside world in order to feel safe, but to get more of our sense of centeredness and our sense of beingness, and experiencingness of self, and getting, and that's the place of greatest safety, because you get the information that you need.
Right. This was explained thousands of years ago by the Taoists.
Yes. Yes.
And they understood that if we can just get out of our own way, and they called it Wu Wei, actually, Wuwei, and
Yes.
which is just, take the next step forward. Don't think about anything else, because the universe is taking care of you. And so that's what I think we have to develop trust in, is that we don't need to control. We need to surrender to a greater control that guides us.
Yes. And I want to add a couple things to that. It is, but it is also with eyes wide open, being aware of things like, what's your highest possible wish? What are the highest forms of expression of self, where you're in balance with your awareness of what feeds you and what is harmonious for all those around you? And so we don't actually consciously create from a place of chaos. And we've been living in a world of tremendous chaos. And so to move into that greater harmony of self is how we can. I just lost you for a moment.
All right, I'm here.
There you are.
Yeah.
My computer just, anyway, bumped me off. Sorry about that. But that experience of self, so that we are, we are in that now, what the Taoists said thousands of years ago, we're there at that precipice. So we will survive as a human life stream if we learn to consciously co-create in a way that is harmonious and coherent with nature, the flow of nature, the Mother Earth consciousness, and what is it really best for you is going to also be best for all. And what is best for all is really going to be what's best for you. And that's coming from a place where we can go back into what I believe was our intention, which is to consciously co-create here, to have this be the most lush, beautiful experience of having our, you want to call your spiritual, your multidimensional self, your spark of divinity, that part of you have a physical experience of co-creating on a more material, visceral level.
But we have to remember that we're creating from a template that we're born into, each separately from each other. That has to do with our astrology, our human design, our source cards. All of that those are templates to how we are in our own spark of, let's call it spark of God. And so that never leaves us. So we will always see it through the eyes of this personality that we're born into, and behave that way uniquely and individually, but it more controls us than us controlling it. And therefore we just also can surrender to that, as well as to universal forces.
Yes, absolutely. Which brings us to another, I think, very important point. And you're saying that is we have this is a massively important time about choice, because we now get to choose. You can choose how you spend your day, how much time in meditation or how much time in distraction, how much time in self-care and self-reflection or in positive intention or positive action. You can choose that. You can choose whether you're going to, I say often, sleep is a big issue for me, and I can wake up and say, oh my God, I'm exhausted. It's going to be a terrible day. Or I can say, all right, it's going to be a tired day, and I'm just going to show up. It's a tired day, and I get to
Good.
choose. I get to choose. And so, but what you're talking about, that we are intricately connected to that earth grid coordinate where we were born. That's where we moved through and became this self here. And we are always connected to that. And we are concurrently always connected to the earth right below our feet, which I'm understanding more and more deeply why walking barefoot, hugging a tree. Yes, there are many reasons why that's important, but we have this interaction, this communication always with that time-space coordinate of our birth. And the time-space, it's all time-space coordinates determine your reality now, here, right now. And so as you actually choose not to be the shadow part of your imprint, but choose to be the more enlightened part of your imprint, and choose to becoming more of the feeling and the experience of you, what happens is your mental, emotional, spiritual body fuses more into your physical body, which fuses you more into the earth. And then you are experiencing that feedback, feed forward system more actively, and not operating so much on the past. Oh my gosh, when that happens, I always do. Or in the future, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about that. But keeping in the present, which I know is also so important, the now and the now and the now. But those are, we are really intricately and innately connected to the earth, but those coordinates of where we were born and where we reside at this moment.
Yeah, and it's so wonderful when you know that, so you can surrender and let yourself just be, because you have it's the language of yourself that you know that you're
Mhm.
speaking. Like, for instance, we don't have to stop speaking, the language that we've learned to use. We don't have to reinvent language, and that's we're responsible for that when we're like 1, 2, and 3 years old. And after that, you know, uh, we're just working on advancing it. But I think this whole idea of being, and I'm glad that we're looking at it with perspective, that you can just be, but know who your being is here to be without
Mhm.
trying to control it, because basically it controls us.
Such an interesting life we have here. I want to talk about a couple of things. Just as I have tended to in this past year, once I realized that the word disaster, the root of the word disaster means disconnected from the stars, is that you and I communicate with the universe a lot in a lot of ways. And then I kind of take a look before my Thursday talks at, what are some very smart astrologers and well-respected astrologers have to say. And it's always, I was like, of course, that makes a total sense. We're picking up on those patterns. But a couple things, and this is relevant mostly also going forward, not just for this week. Right now, as you and I speak, we're right in the middle of this 12-12-22 to 12-21 portal, which is exceedingly powerful, moving into a new moon on the 23rd of December. And that is, there are these surges, because right now our sun and moon at the time of the solstice are in direct alignment with the galactic center. So what is happening is our solar system is moving into a whole different place in our photonic belt, and photons and ions. Ion means information of nature. So there are bits of information and we're being really surges of this more coherent and energy from source, from our galactic center. But a couple of the interesting things is this is where we are right now, this portal moving into the 21st and going forward. But when we go into a solstice, remember that rings in the energy for the next 3 months, and for these incredible alignments, like Jupiter being at 0 degrees Aries, which is expansiveness with incredible new energy and fiery energy. All these things are ringing into, I believe, a very strong shift in moving into 2023 and beyond. And another way of saying that is we're getting this insurge of divine feminine energy to balance out this, which has been a distorted masculine energy, so that we are embodying more compassion for self and others. And that is what brings us into wisdom and moving into our experience of wisdom, not and the other thing, I get so excited when we talk, Peter, lots of ideas come out. The
Good.
other thing, in response to what you were saying, is yes, we are moving into group consciousness, so community and collaboration becomes really important, but not with compliance, because we want to celebrate with compassion and with self-love, of course, our sense of that unique frequency we're born into, whether
Right.
it's you're right, human design, your astrology, your cards, your numbers, those frequencies. We want to actually begin to celebrate the diversity of every frequency of every being of creation on the planet is necessary for the symphony of creation now. So it's a
And they,
celebration of that.
and they each create their own unique experience.
Great.
And so that's why we can be in community, respecting the unique experiences of each person without having to conform to someone else's experience.
Right. I do want to make sure that we acknowledge that I actually think that we're heading into some more times when things will be breaking down, and because that's what many of us want to happen. We want things
Right.
we will find have been really insidiously infused with old chaotic energies or of domination and awful things, all the awful things that have been part of the frequency that have been here on the planet. Those frequencies are slowly dropping. We want to see things fall apart that don't work well, but that to remember whatever tools work for any of us navigating forward to get you more in your center, whether it's the Ho'oponopono prayer, or whether it's hugging a tree or taking a bath, or what are the things that are self-care for you that can get you back to your center, so that whatever is, Mother Nature is relentless and fierce. And so we don't know how this reorganization into this more harmonic group consciousness is going to go, but to allow things to unfold the way they do, and to keep finding ways for you to come back to center and not trying to hold on to the scaffolding as it's coming down.
Right.
So,
right. So we have to be smart and but also passengers on the ship, rather than thinking that we're steering it, and yet steering our own like wiggle room through it. And
well, but that's navigating in a different places. Are you living in integrity with yourself? Are you living in compassion with yourself? Are you not choosing to live to please other people to the extent of, as we have before, I don't know what we've accomplished, what we look like, where we live. There are all sorts of criteria that we've used, and it's time to let those go and live in integrity. And then we can let go, because then we'll have our center with compassion and sense of self, and receiving, you get the information you need.
we do, and that's what the Taoists said thousands of years ago, is that if we just let go, take the next step, and be open and sensitive to what flows in, it'll take care of us.
So that is like I believe it's the last movie in Indiana Jones, when he needs to cross the abyss, and it looks like there's nothing there because he can't see it, because it's in another dimensional reality. and it looks like he's walking off the cliff, but the path appears for him to reach the Holy Grail.
I love
We're
that.
there now.
Yeah.
We're there now because it's another dimensional reality, and we have to trust it, even though we can't see it, because it's a very different frequency. It's more coherent, it's more harmonic, and it's in quantum physics, I guess because it's more coherent, it holds more information, so it's denser, but that's kind of hard for most of us to relate to. But it's there, it's real, and it's there. And I actually think there will be more and more revelations of things that have been there all along, but they've been, our perception has not been able to pick those things up. And I think we're going to have a lot of exciting times ahead of us in that way as well.
And I think the bottom line that we're talking about is to live in openness and trust.
Yes.
And to think that way, just every moment, just let's not worry about every moment. Let's exalt in the moment and trust that we're taken care of in from greater sources.
Well, if you're worried, you're actually thinking about the future. You're not in the moment.
Right.
So
That's good. Thank you. That was very helpful. So this has been great talking with you. And how can people follow up to find you
well, always through the Heart River. I am, I'm on the board. I'm happy to be part of, connected to the Heart River for decades now. So always through you, but I have, my email is lisawdenton@gmail.com. I have a very simple website, lisadenton.com, and you can find me there. Yeah, this has just been, as always, Peter, a delight to have conversation with you, and we could just, it gets so exciting and fun.
Well, you're terrific. It's so much fun. I know I'm basking in your words. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at prn.live. And I can be reached at peter@heartriver, as Lisa said, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening.